New surveillance footage of the May 24th mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, was obtained and published by the Austin American-Statesman and our sister station KVUE-TV in Austin. The footage shows heavily armed officers with ballistic shields standing in the hallway, waiting 77 minutes to confront the shooter. 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered. Meanwhile, a small army of armed law enforcement professionals stood by and let that happen. The footage is absolutely infuriating. And I, for one, have to feel for the parents and loved ones of the victims of the shooting, as well as the survivors who undoubtedly will carry that trauma for the rest of their lives. But I can't imagine ever digesting this footage if my child was lost that day. I wouldn't be able to contain my fury. Now, there was a time when just pure shame alone would prevent the police from taking the actions, or more accurately, the inaction of the officers in Uvalde. But these cops, they appear perfectly fine with standing by as children die. No sense of urgency, with their guns and their Blue Lives Matter Punisher emblems, while collecting all of the perks that being a police officer affords. No shame whatsoever. While children were being slaughtered, a response team the size of a militia stood down waiting over an hour. Imagine what it must have been like for the victims inside of that classroom praying for someone to save them. Meanwhile, the people whose job it is to step up stood in the hallway and did next to nothing. And let's be clear, these officers did no less than use those children as human shields, despite holding actual shields of their own. Those children had none. The mayor of Uvalde, Don McLaughlin, called the reporters who received the video from a source and published it chicken for publishing the delayed officer response.
I want to go on record, the way that video was released today is one of the most chicken things I've ever seen.
Really, Mr. Mayor, that video was one of the most chicken things I've ever seen, but it had nothing to do with the journalists. While the mayor claims that lawmakers plan to show the victims' families the footage in advance, and I can understand that, the only people who deserve that label in this scenario are those responding officers. Scores of trained professionals with assault rifles and ballistic shields at their disposal, yet they stood by as one man took 21 innocent lives. And anything other than shock and disgust in response to the existence of this video is registering to this guy as complicity. Now, I can't wait to see how police unions try and spin this one. To anybody even attempting to play devil's advocate, hindsight is 20/20. But it's clear to see that this response was inept and cowardly any way you slice it. Officers in Akron, Ohio had no problem shooting 90 shots at Jayland Walker, hitting him 60 times, then handcuffing him as he lay dying. Yet in Uvalde, one teenager with an AR-15 made over 300 officers stall for over 70 minutes, according to Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez, as children and teachers were being massacred. One even had the time and the wherewithal to grab hand sanitizer. But no amount of disinfectant can clean their hands.